Good day, everybody, and welcome to Maranatha and Panelist receptions. It is really a grand time to see the beginning of another Sabbath. The day that the Lord has blessed. To begin, let us stand as we offer a word of prayer. Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father and Lord, we thank you for your blessings that you bestowed upon us throughout this week. We thank you for tender mercies that you granted to us, that we were able to go to our various places of work, school, wherever. And you have allowed us to see the beginning of a new Sabbath. Father, we thank you for your love towards us, for all that you have given us and that you have done for us to see thanks. We pray, O God, that you forgive us where we have failed you or misrepresented you. Father, wash us within and without and make us holy then. We pray, O God, that your Holy Spirit will come divinely close to us tonight. May your presence be felt, and may our time spent here will bring honor and glory to you, and have us rejoicing, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Tonight I'm doing a short devotion from the passage Matthew 7, verses 1 to 12. And we read, "Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again." Or how will thou say to thy brother, "Let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou strive to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you, who if his son asks bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks a fish, will he give him a serpent? If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father which is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. And Jesus was ending his sermon on the mount in chapter 7 of Matthew, and speaking to the crowd, he spoke to them, saying, "Do not judge, because you will be judged." Let us remember at all times and always, judgment belongs to God. And most times when people judge, it is because they themselves are far removed from God, and so they are judging you by their own standards. Let us take a case in point. Saul, during his fight with the Philistines, made a law one day and said, nobody eat anything or drink anything for the whole day. But not knowing the Spirit of God had moved on Jonathan, and Jonathan had smote the garrison, the Philistine garrison, and gained a victory, and being hungry at the end, took some honey from a honeycomb and tasted. And so it was told Saul, and so he said, since it is his law that he made anybody that anything they will die, Jonathan must die. Not even taking into account that Jonathan had just, the Spirit had just used Jonathan to do a great work. and so he passed judgment. And he himself, not knowing, he was far removed from God. So we see when Jesus is speaking in these verses, it deals with our relationship with each other, how we deal with each other, how we want persons to treat us. First, however you want to be treated, that's how you must treat. If you want to be treated nicely, don't rough people up and expect them to treat you nice. That will not happen. Or trying to correct somebody who have done something very minor, but you have done so much wrong and not even seeing what you have done, want to correct the individual. So we want to take out the little thing from the brother's eye, but we're not seeing how terrible our faults are. How we have been dealing with persons that is not according to what God has designed. And so Jesus is speaking. First, correct yourself. Straighten up, right. Be sure that you are falling in line with the will of God and the principles of God, so that you will be able to tell others what to do. Then Jesus speaks to the crowd and he says, do not give holy things to the dogs. So somebody just looking at the thing that Jesus was calling the dogs, but not very soon. All that Jesus was saying. Do not preach or teach people who you know are not interested in what you are saying. It's just like you take your jewelry and put it in front of a pig and expect it to take care of it. That will not happen. So Jesus is saying, persons who are not interested in the gospel, even when you bring it to them, they will not know. So he's saying, do not waste much time with this people. They are not interested, leave them alone for the time being until they come to themselves. And he's speaking also of parents dealing with the children. How they deal with the children. The children ask them, no parent. I don't believe that there is any parent who would give the child something that is not edible to eat. Something that they themselves will not eat and give it to the children. I don't think there is any parent, I wouldn't know any parent so. But Jesus is saying, if parents know how to give the children good gifts, he is more than willing to give you a gift, the greatest gift. And that is the gift of the Holy Spirit. So it is ours to ask for, to seek for it, and so we will find it if we keep at Jesus. He wants to give us the Holy Spirit, which is the best gift. But are we asking for it earnestly and sincerely? Are we preparing ourselves to receive the gift of the Holy Spirit? And so we need to know that Christ wants the best for us. And if we do not, or if we are not ready to receive the Holy Spirit, we will not ask for it. But that is a gift we should always be grasping for. The gift of the Holy Spirit. And then he ends in verse 12, he says, whatever you want anybody to do for you, do for them. You know, many times I've heard persons say, the church has no love. So I say to myself, how do you know that church does not love if you are not giving love? If you are not giving, don't expect to receive. And the best thing that anybody can do is to have a life of giving. When you're always giving compliments, you're always encouraging, good things will come back to you. And so many persons want what they do not need. That will never happen in the commonwealth of Jesus. You cannot get what you are not giving. If you want forgiveness, you must forgive people. If you want friendship, you must be a friend. Otherwise, you will always be by yourself. So, our dealings with each other today, I want us to always remember that we must treat people the way that we want to be treated. And let us not judge people by our own standards. Let us remember that we do not bring the gospel to persons who are not interested in anything that is spiritual. When you have spoken with them, they have shown no interest, leave them alone. You might just make them angry and retaliate, so just leave them alone. Jesus is saying, so when in verse 6, when he says, do not do that which is holy to God. May God, we should bless you and keep you. And let us continue to remember that giving is giving. God bless you and keep you. Let us bow our heads. Father, we thank you for your will that you have given us. We pray, O God, that our hearts will receive your word with gladness and live in accordance with your will. May you bless each one tonight and bless the proceedings and each one, I pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
And I'm the family life leader of the Maranatha SDA Church. The family life and the AY department for the past 6 months was coordinating this program, Perceptions, Understanding How the Opposite Sex Thinks. And a little background into this. So in my professional capacity as a psychotherapist and a social worker, I hosted the program using a panelist of 6 individuals throughout 6 months. So we had 3 males and 3 females, and these panelists we were used to teach the viewing audience, and that would have been on the Zoom platform and also within the church. It was to teach persons how to demonstrate empathy, yes, how to demonstrate advanced empathy, active listening, a non-judgmental attitude, how to demonstrate respect despite differences in opinions. And this was done, as I said, within 6 months. And within those 6 months, we've had approximately 36 individuals who have been on this platform to teach persons how to do this. So with the program, we really held a very constant approach throughout the 6 months. A scenario was presented. Participants were able to always give a summary of the scenario because we wanted to teach how it is you engage in active listening, an exploration of the thought processes and the mental messages, the feelings which influence the behavior was done. Then it went into an examination of the biblical teachings that guided the way forward. Now, it was deliberate to have this constant structure because, as you know, through repetition, you are able to get the skills grounded and learned. And by God's grace, we have been successful with this process. To date, the viewing audience has been able to demonstrate these skills as they are able to give feedback on the program. We have had an indication that these skills have been learned. So again, welcome to our 7th things. This evening, we are going to be looking at a case with a couple having challenges over their respective roles in the family. And our objectives tonight, we are getting a shift from what we are normally used to. So our objective is to, one, understand the perspectives of the individuals, that's constant, from a male perspective and a female perspective. You know, sometimes individuals go through situations and the female in the situation would be, I'm having this challenge constantly. Is it me personally that's having this challenge? Or is this something that women across the board are experiencing? And our program this evening, we will be exploring that area. The other objective is to really guide individuals as to how to navigate through the challenges, and we're doing this in an informed way through biblical perspectives and psychological perspectives based on the understanding of the perspectives of the individuals in the case. And we have the use of professional experiences of understanding the male and female perspective in order to guide our way through. And of course, constant as it has been with this program is that we demonstrate respect for each other despite the various views. And so we have a rich panel who is going to bring out the male and female perspective and drive this program forward. So at this time, representing the male panelists, I'm going to call on our male panelists. We have Pastor Leroy David, and Pastor Leroy is the pastor of Sozel District of SDA, and Pastor wants to be a tool in God's hands. He likes to exercise, he loves the beach, and he loves nature. Yes? Also representing the male panelists, the male perspective, we have Alvin Flora. He's a teacher at a high school for over 20 years. He loves farming. He is the elder at the Maranatha SDA Church who loves contributing to the cause of Christ. And for our viewing audience, these gentlemen are no stranger to you. But for those of you who are new to our platform, our dear brother Alvin and our dear Pastor David. Representing the females, we have Lydia Leo from the Therefore SDA Church. She is a social worker. We also have Sister Josephine Headley, a member of the Family Life Department. She is a retired accountant. She enjoys listening to good gospel music. And we have Hester St. Clair, who's an educator. She's a special ed educator, and she's passionate about working with children and the youth. And of course, I am your host, Olympia Piper Cools Vitalis. I'm a psychotherapist and a social worker and the family life leader. I love to laugh and I love to participate in fun games. Okay? So these are the advisors this evening who is going to very richly bring out the perspectives of the individual that we have in the case this evening. So let's get it going. Good evening. Okay, so this is Sister Lydia, Sister Hester, and Sister Headley. Our case is up on the screen. So here's our case, audience, brothers and sisters. And again, these cases are scenarios that Jason's out there, the question is, Jason is thinking, is it me? Do I have a problem? Or are all men thinking this way? And that is why we have our male, we have our female. So let's talk. Males, our male panelists, can you make a case for Jason this evening? And let us understand his perspective in this situation.
Pastors first. A pleasant good evening to everyone in the audience and of course those who are viewing us online. I'm very happy to be part of the panel this evening and I'm looking forward to the interaction and learning from this case. I find this is a really real case. It's a case that a lot of families go through. So we're hoping that as we examine it, we'll deduce something from it that can help us. And I must say I admire the program because it allows you, it gives you some training as to how to deal with situations when somebody comes to you with a problem, and maybe you can follow the steps as you go through interacting with them. So it's a learning process. It's not just discussing a case, but it's something that we can learn as we interact with each other, as we speak to each other. So the active listening comes in, the communication comes in, and we know what kind of advice to give when we speak to someone. As it relates to Jason's perspective, as I look at the case, I'm making a case for Jason as in I'm on Jason's side. And I'm giving what Jason might be feeling as a man in that situation. So my take on that is that Jason, who has been unemployed for a long time, may be suffering from demotivation, from depression, because of his inability to provide for his family for such a long period of time. So Jason has been unemployed for a long period of time. Maybe he does not feel very useful to the family, of any use to the family, and maybe at this time he's demotivated, does not have the strength or the energy. And we know sometimes when we are depressed what our level of energy can be. We can feel burdened, and our mental capacity, we feel as if everything is too much for us at the time. His efforts have not been successful at finding a job, and that itself has long-term effects on him, and he might be feeling useless and tired.
I'm seeing some nods in the audience from the females, so I guess the females are able to relate to that. Okay, pass.
One of the other things I took down from Jason's and Latoya's case from his perspective, is that there may be a possibility of a macho versus Hillary. And so if I have to be macho, I can't be a Hillary. And so there's this dichotomy, there's this problem. And so forced to be a man, despite the situation, he's choosing macho instead of what looks like helping his wife may make him look, inferior or like a Hillary, like a little boy.
Okay, all right. Before we go into the females, anyone from the audience? Anyone from the audience want to share the male perspective? And of course, if we have comments coming from our viewers, feel free to share that with us. From Jason too, including what was said, Jason's belief system, the macho, he may be coming up with this, that, hey, women are supposed to be in the home working. And that is what he grew up with, that is what he saw, and that is what he believes in, despite the fact that his opportunity has not come to rise to what he needs to. Outside of that, this is his belief. Jason could also be thinking, he's tired. He's really tired doing what he has to do. It may not make sense to Latoya, but he's really tired. Another possibility, because we are exploring perspectives, is that he does not know how to effectively get the house chores done. He just does not know how. this assumption that you just take the rice, put it in the water, put on the fire, that's it, you cook the rice, there's nothing to it. But Jason, in his inability, he just does not have the skill. Another reason Jason might be behaving this way is that when he does the work, could it be that he's being criticized for it? His incompetence in this area, and so he's being criticized? Or when the work is done, Latoya goes to redo it and complains that it's not done properly. If you don't want to do something, just don't do it. I always have to go and do it again. Could also be that he's just lazy. He's just lazy. That's the truth.
No, I'm happy you said one of the first ones is that how can you blame me as Jason when you made that example? How can you blame me when all I saw was what I am at home now? That's how my father was, that's how my grandfather was. But the other thing I also noticed in that maybe because of what Alvin would have said, he being depressed and demotivated, Jason very well could, the whole marriage responsibility now is frustrating. The kids and all of that is overwhelming. And not knowing how to properly respond to all of those frustrations, the marriage responsibility, the kids and everything. And he cannot be fulfilled as a man in that, take care of his family, he's reacting. You know, and that's how he chooses to react or respond. You know, not knowing how to properly deal with everything.
And one more I want to add to that. Could be Jason just does not like to do house chores. Jason simply just does not like to do house chores. That's another possibility coming from him. Latoya's?
They have people who like to do house chores?
Well, certainly, Jason's standpoint is totally off. I don't like to do it. I don't want to do it. It's out of my reach. Let's hear what the females, Latoya's, let's hear what they have to say as we presented this case for Jason. Are you now understanding why Jason is doing this?
The thing is, even with Jason feeling that he's useless and his ego and the macho thing, we had a conversation and we had this thing where Latoya, so I am Latoya. I spoke to Jason about it and let him know, hey, look, I understand what you're going through in the sense that you have been looking for a job, and I know that, of course, you were raised in the church, so you appreciate that the man is the head of the home, and I've always treated you that way. Now that you don't have a job does not remove you from that position. So you feeling useless, to the family you're not. And I have tried explaining that to Jason on several occasions, but for some reason he seems to believe that that's just what I think, he's useless because he's not working. However, there's a lot more based on the case that could be going through, Latoya could be going through. She could be angry, she could be frustrated, or because of conversation happening, and Jason is just still at that point where I don't like doing work, so I'm not doing the work. So I now have to come from work and do the work that he was home and couldn't do. So you would understand the frustration that I have with Jason.
Okay. All right, audience. What's Latoya's reasons, okay? What's Latoya's reason for behaving this way?
Okay, if I am to take Latoya's position, I'm thinking that she's probably thinking, I'm the one working 2 jobs. You're currently unemployed. I'm paying practically all the bills. And I'm coming home seeking your assistance and you're telling me you're tired. Right? So I'm thinking that Latoya would be pretty angry. She would think that probably he doesn't love her to be able to make the sacrifice to meet her halfway, since she's already going out and working 2 jobs. She's coming home and she's still having to do everything. And so she's probably thinking that he's insensitive as well. She's probably wondering, you know, was it worth it? Is this how it's going to be for the rest of our marriage? Are you going to actually get up and do something? And if you cannot get a job, at least in the meantime, make the time at home matter. Your time at home matter. So I'm thinking all of that is going through Latoya's head. She's probably also thinking, I said something else, that he can show how much he cares for the family through his actions. And currently his actions are not saying that. I also noted that to the end of the scenario, it said that he says that he's tired from taking care of outside chores. So that says that he believes that his role is to do the outside chores. So I'm sure that Latoya is upset because there is so much more to be done and your focus is only on outside, but to maintain the home, your help is also needed.
I think Latoya is frustrated, and she is trying really hard to help out, because by right, Jason's supposed to be the head, the protector, the provider, and here Latoya has to do what he's supposed to be doing. And I think she is really upset knowing that how hard she has to work on the outside. And the other thing that came to my mind when I read the scenario is that there are 3 children involved, 13, 10, and 8. So what role are they playing in the family? Is it that those children are not being included in certain decision making, or teaching them how important their role is in helping the parents or even the mother at home? So by the time she comes in from work, she wouldn't have to do certain house chores, because those children, 13, 10, and 8, I think they are old enough where they are able to assist in one way or another. And not getting the assistance that she needs from Jason, it really have her thinking, would I want to remain in this relationship if things have to continue the way it is now?
Latoya and Jason are having a conversation on this matter. We've heard Jason, we've heard Latoya. Some other thing or some other aspect that may be coming up for Latoya is that, as was said, is that she's tired and she just cannot do a 3rd job. Because coming out of there, she just cannot do the 3rd one. Home is another job on its own. And she's of the opinion that had been stated that love works 2 ways, and that husband and wife help each other. She's really pushing herself to make the family comfortable, and she understands that he's having challenges with a job, does not want to put pressure on him to go out there and get a job and nag. But there's the expectation that a little more needs to be done.
The suggestion is that Jason does not love Latoya, but the outside chores being done is, maybe that's what I can do, and I do it very well, and exceptional too. And maybe another wife would love the outside job that I do, You know, and maybe another wife is complaining not about the inside job that this husband is doing, but the lack of maintaining the home outside too. So maybe the appreciation or love that he has for his wife expressed by doing the outside work and making sure the grass is cut on time and all these kind of things that some women do appreciate.
But Jason,
right?
Jason, we're not speaking of others, we're speaking of us.
Yeah.
Not others.
No,
So as much as other persons appreciate the outside, after coming from 2 jobs, I cannot do the inside, which is a third. Of course, I don't expect you to do everything inside. I will assist, and that's what I've been asking for, assistance. So I appreciate the outside. But when I come home at nighttime, the outside doesn't matter that much because I'm not seeing the outside. I come inside and everything is there. The clothes, the dishes, the food, the stove is a mess, the children have not done their homework. So I come to a third job, Jason. That's all I'm asking for, help in the inside.
I wanted to finish my point.
Before you join, Jason, what we saw here is what's called generalization.
Yeah.
So when we are engaging in conversation, as it relates to the individuals, what goes on is what usually happens is, but the others, but they, but outside of what is happening. So that was a clear depiction of how the generalization is done and how we always have to get back to what is unique to us.
So I was expressing that I was responding to the issue of not loving her, right? That what he's doing, maybe that's his way of showing that he loves her by doing these things that he can do. Maybe that's what he can do, right? I'm not saying that he is there yet. Maybe that's what he can do. But we cannot say conclusively that he does not love his wife. That's the point I was making.
Okay. Ladies in the audience, when something is not going the way we expect it to be done, does it necessarily mean that this person does not love you?
No, but we were talking about how she's feeling at this point in time. And to be honest, from a female's perspective, that is how women feel in the moment. Sometimes you have to remind yourself that, of course, that is not the case, but in the moment, and I guess later on we'll touch a little bit on love languages, but for now, her love language is not being met. So in her mind, does he really love me? That would be the thoughts that would be going through her head.
Yeah. As we move along, we have understood where Jason is coming from. We've understood where LaToya is coming from. Males, our male panelists, very specifically, what possibly does Jason want from LaToya in this situation? Very specifically, what does Jason want?
He brought it up just a while ago, and I have it done for there. That he wants LaToya to show appreciation for what he's doing, and not for what he's not doing.
Listen, LaToyas, listen.
All right. Now going to what all of the possible reasons that Jason is doing what he's doing. I mean, I'm coming from a home. Jason is coming from a home. He never had that. That's what he saw.
Yeah.
So he wants from LaToya, most likely, submission. Just, hey, accept this is me as a man. I'm doing my part. Just accept. You come home and do yours. And the third one Jason wants from LaToya is to stop nagging.
Okay.
To stop nagging. And I'm not sure if it's too early yet to bring that up. Because earlier, one of the LaToyas did indicate about the children. And that's a good point. But when we look at that, there's 3 children in the house, right? As 13, 10, and 8.
Yeah.
And all of them are of age, can do something. And so I'm asking the question, why are the children not doing anything? Is it because Latoya thinks that's the prince and princesses and they should not do anything in the house? And so maybe Jason is thinking it's time now for these children to start understanding what, household is and so on.
So Jason essentially wants the children to be able to contribute
to the household.
House. Okay?
It's getting a bit clearer now to some people. I suspect it's getting a bit clearer. So for me, I go back to Jason being part of the family. Jason wants to be part of the family. And that part of the family is not necessarily just doing chores and being a husband in the house.
Not a husband. Not a husband. Okay.
In the house. Not necessarily doing this and doing that and doing that. But part of the family. That in spite of his situation, that he has value in the family. Right? He wants her to understand that he's going through a lot as well and needs emotional support from her. He's really tired as well, and it is taking a toll on him. So your husband is going through a serious situation and he requires coping mechanisms, he requires help from you, who is his wife, which would include as a wife and as a mother that you would encourage or get your children to be part of taking care of the house as well. So the 14-year-old would have, why you have a 14-year-old in the house, why is it that Jason has to do the dishes? 14. Allow us to finish. Right? You have a 10-year-old in the house. The 10-year-old, as Pastor David said, can do something. All these children can bathe themselves, they can dress themselves, they can keep their space clean, right? So why is there so much housework in the house with 3 children of that particular age? Who is responsible for that?
And in this moment, what was depicted right here is the urgency to respond before the other party ends what has to be said. And we know that happens. This is dynamics that's played. So what we need to do is wait until everything comes out from both the female and the male, and then you respond. But let me just recap for the viewing audience what was indicated from Jason that he needs in this situation. And I want to put a disclaimer out there that these responses does not represent the core values of our panelists. What we are doing here this evening is to be able to create that perspective from Jason's end to be able to share what he may be going through. It doesn't mean this is how Pastor David thinks, okay? So, a summary, Jason wants to be shown appreciation in the home. He wants to be accepted. He wants the nagging to stop. And the female might say, like, seriously, dude? What nagging you talking about? But from the perspective of the male, it's nagging. He wants to be able to have the contribution from the family. He wants to be able to be valued and recognize. He wants that recognition from the wife that, hey, I'm really going through an emotional challenge here. He wants help from her to be able to do what he needs to do. 3 more things that I wanted to add. Possibly he just wants to be left alone. He wants help. He wants her to teach him how to get the chores done. And he wants her to help him structure what's going on.
But I am saying
just before we move on, there's a point, excuse me, there's a point made earlier by Latoya about raised in the church. But when you look at our case, it may not be people who were raised in the church, because you're talking about married for 6 years with a 14-year-old, with a 10-year-old, and with an 8-year-old. When you check the years, it may not be that case at all?
May not.
May not.
It could be new converts.
It could be new converts
Or raised in the church.
or raised in the church.
All the denominations will teach the same. The man is the head. So I'll allow the other Latoyas, because a while ago I was very quick to respond and wanted to, so I would take, afterwards I would
I
respond.
am saying Latoya must be thinking that she's being used and abused. She has she has two jobs, you know,
Yeah.
and she's coming home, and then Jason is doing the house chores on the outside, and he goes out to look for jobs. Reverend,
What does she
That's-
want, Sister Headley?
what's that?
What she wants from Jason?
She needs his assistance. And I'm saying Jason should be in a position to cherish his wife. To my mind, when Latoya comes home, the meal should have been prepared by Jason and with the help of the children. It can be very frustrating. Imagine, Sister Vitalis, you working 2 jobs and you're coming home, and then you have to do all the house chores and see about the children, and you have, he's there for good looks.
You heard this comment? Yeah. The women's perspective. Jason is there for good looks. Let's hear the other. What do you need? What does Latoya need in this situation?
Okay, I'm thinking that Latoya needs Jason to be a provider. I think every woman would want to know that her husband is able to provide for the home. So I think she would want him to be a provider. She'd want him to love her the way she wants to be loved, and not necessarily how he thinks she should be loved. Right? And I would say also that she wants help within the home. She wants to come home and see at least some of the chores on the inside is done by Jason.
I would want, in our relationship, we deal a lot with compromise. So I understand that Jason does not like doing dishes or the house chores. You see, that's the thing that I have with Jason. We speak at home, and Jason will totally ignore me, so I never get the message across. And Jason is doing it right now. You understand?
So Lydia, 1 point. Ladies, not ladies. Jasons. We need the undivided attention as the woman is taking the extra effort to be able to explain to you what is going on. Point taken.
Very well. Thank you very much. And Jason, all I'm asking for is your support. I know that in the beginning we said that the children were too young to do certain stuff, but now you are the one with them almost all the time for 8 hours. I am not. Like you indicated, they are 13, 10, and 8. I am not home. You are the head of the household. You could say to them, hey, it's time for you to do X, Y, and Z. Yes, in the beginning we said they were too young, but you are home, so you can do that. You are their father. I want you, Jason, to be a part of the family. Let it be a unit and not just me coming home, having the 2 jobs, the provider, and I come home to make decisions again. No, you are. I respect the fact that you can't get a job just yet, and that is fine. Me bringing in the salary says nothing about who you are. I just want your support. You understand that when I get home, I don't want to be at a 3rd job. I want at the end of the night, Jason, to be there with you in our room. That's what I want. And not be so tired from the 3rd job that we cannot spend time together. So I need you to understand. I need your support. I need your assistance. I need your empathy, Jason. I need just to, and sometimes, Jason, I know you don't like when I say that, but I want you to man up. I want you to man up. So you see, when the children say, hey, look, Daddy, Mommy said we're not washing dishes. Hey, what's your age? You 13? Go get the dishes done. Man up, Jason. You understand? Don't tell me you cannot wash dishes as a man. You can. You use them. You cook the food. You eat. Dirty the stove. You can clean it. You could have the children help you. You cannot do it. When I come home, ask me. I'm not a psychic. I cannot read your mind. So I want us to have a conversation as well. Okay,
Wow.
Jason?
Wow. Latoyas have been represented out there, likewise the men. So
I
the
was about to say,
Jasons,
okay, darling.
the Jasons out there, here we are getting from the women generally what is really the need. Now, an interesting thing here, the expectations on both ends are the same. Jason wants to be shown appreciation, so does Latoya. Jason is expecting the children to be part of the house management as well as Latoya. But there is no clear indication as to who is going to take that leadership to get it done. This one is depending on this one is depending on this one. So here, Latoya was able to express to Jason, you can get the children involved. And so with Jason now, that kind of releases the weight, or maybe add more weight in like, okay, I was supposed to do that, I didn't know, I expected you to direct them, but it has been presented.
A possibility that there's something we're ignoring, maybe ignoring. Jason is out looking for work all day, right?
Yeah.
And the wife is working 2 jobs. Well, we're not sure if it's 2 8-hour jobs. I'm not sure if it says so. But could there be a possibility that Jason is out looking for work, and he looking out for work, is not possible for him to be at home cleaning, and may just be coming in just as the wife is coming in from work as well?
Okay, because it says he's out looking for work. Yeah.
Could that be a scenario that ignoring, and why Jason perhaps is reacting the way he's reacting as well?
I love that scenario. That means the 2 of us walk in minutes apart, so we do it together.
Yeah. Okay. Pause for a brief promo. So audience, you have it. The perspectives of the male and the female. What do you think? Are you now getting more clarity as to where you could move forward? Or are you still stuck in the position thinking, leave me alone, I cannot do anything about it? We were able to really get richness in what Jason is thinking and what Latoya is thinking. For future programs, again, please email us at perceptionsofmenandwomen@gmail.com to either be a future panelist for your questions as well as your scenarios, okay? So we're moving down. We are all Christians. We are guided by biblical references. So what is the biblical guidance on the best way forward for this situation? What can we get from the word?
Well, Romans 5:8 says, God demonstrated his love towards us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died. And marriage, it represents God. And if we truly embrace the philosophies or he who created or gave us marriage as a gift, then it is our responsibility to, of course, allow love to be the all-defining principle of a marriage. And so just as God demonstrated his love towards us while we were sinners, even in this scenario, Latoya and Jason, obviously there's contention, there's problems there, but it must be that love comes through. And so they will put self aside and allow love to have its way. All right?
So, Pastor, I'm going to stretch you a bit. So with Jason and Latoya, how is that demonstrated in a very practical way?
Right. Let me just take the first thing Latoya number 1 said, is that we got home. We got home. same time. Let's do it together. You know, we got home same time, let's do it together. How is it demonstrated? Genesis
Chapter 2, verse 18. The Bible says, and the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him.
So that's a helper suitable or comparable to him. It does not say subservient. And so, as a man, you lead that. So we are equals, and we're going to be working together. You're not. This is not. Maybe go back. This is not about being macho, me being, Hillary. This is about we building our marriage. So we'll work together. We'll speak, communicate together to deal with these issues.
So Jason expecting LaToya to lead or guide the children in this situation, that should not be the expectation. He should just feel that he needs to just go in and get it done.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that that they need to decide on the way forward, right? So we are not strong in the same areas, right? In where one is strong, the other may be weak. So the two of them will have to determine what course of action they take in dealing with that situation. So you're going to solve a problem, you're going to meet to put structures in place. Okay, you will do this, and I will do that, and the children will do this. But the two of you would be meeting, and of course you'd have the family meeting to discuss exactly what approach you will take to that situation. So if you are stronger talking to the children, your voice may be firmer, because you have women who may be firmer than or more authoritative than men in terms of dealing with their children. You have men who are more playful and easygoing with their children as well. So they would decide based on the personalities who would be the one to tackle that. Of course, there's balance, because even though you are playful, you still have to lend support in the way you affirm what your partner is doing as well.
Okay, go ahead.
In Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 25, we are told that the Lord has laid down the principle that is to guide in this matter. The husband is to cherish his wife as Christ cherishes the church, and the wife is to respect and love her husband. Both are to cultivate the spirit of kindness, being determined never to grieve or enforce the other or force the other.
Okay. I would like to ask LaToya a question in relation to this very text. Is it based on what you're experiencing, there's a feeling that Jason does not cherish LaToya?
To me, when I look, it seems as though both LaToya and Jason does not seem to be on the same page when it comes to cherishing and loving each other. And God has given us, and with Jason, God said in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 9, I think, by the sweat of thy brow you shall eat bread until you go back to the dust. And so Jason needs to understand that passage of scripture, what God is saying. Because as the head, husband and father, it is his responsibility. And God, that's the mandate that God has put on every man who is married, including Jason. And in that scenario, he is not working. And LaToya is the one who has two jobs. And so, to my mind, he should remember, or if he knows what is required of him as the father, as the husband and father, that he should be more caring, in that when LaToya come and ask him for help, he got upset. So I'm saying, if you know your situation and the wife is outstretched, you shouldn't be quarreling or get upset when the wife comes to you and asks for help.
Yeah.
So if we go on that basis, they shouldn't have any problem.
Yeah. Point taken. Excellent. Any other?
Okay, biblical view. I came across a few, but I'll just share two. The very common and popular one, 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. There's more, but I'll pause here. It does not insist on its own way. So this is the time where Jason and LaToya need to come together to work on something that both can benefit from rather than they both pushing their agendas. And 1 Peter 3:7, likewise husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life. Again, the Bible is encouraging us, and when I hear weaker vessel, I think of the emotional part of a woman. And this is why in the beginning I said there's a possibility that LaToya is feeling that she's not loved, or she doesn't mean enough to Jason for him to go that extra mile to fulfill her request. So in this case, I think of the emotional side, where this may be filling her up with so much emotions, hoping that her husband can show love through the way that he, takes care of the home. And of course, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Christ really loved the church, and he showed it in everything that he did.
Yeah.
So, yes, these were a few out of the many that I came across.
So men, Jason's, when LaToya, the wife, Yvette, comes up and says, you don't love me. If you love me, that wouldn't happen. And is stuck on that. Biblical references. This is the response of that emotional weakness that's coming out there. And that shouldn't be taken as a bullet, but through an understanding that this is the replica of the weaker vessel.
I don't think it's a good practice to tell your husband that he doesn't love you, or tell your wife that you don't love me. I think it's better to ask questions so that the person can check themselves, right? So perhaps the question can be asked, what I'm going through regarding the chores and stuff like that, does that reflect your love towards me? And let the person answer the question.
Okay.
Because I think telling somebody you don't love me is not going to get anything, but it will just create some resentment, because the person is still trying to love you the best way that they can. And maybe the way the person is loving you is not the way you feel in the love. So maybe asking the questions relevant to how you feel about what you're going through, does that reflect your love towards me, would be a better way to put it than to say you don't love me.
Okay. And so we're doing a little bit of Jason, a little bit of LaToya, and then we're coming with a beautiful product. So it's not that we are invalidating LaToya, that, no, I'm not going to consider that. You just shouldn't. We're not going to do that. We're going to consider that that is that emotional self. And LaToya is going to consider, you know what? Let me get the facts in this. Let me seek clarification before I jump to conclusion. So we bring in both together, and then we're coming up with a wonderful solution.
I'm happy Sister St. Clair brought up 1 Peter 3, and she used verse 7, but I have verse 6. But before I get there, I will use Sister Headley, which used Ephesians, and I have those there. Ephesians 22 talks about wives, 5:22, wives submitting, but 25 talks about, men loving your wife as Christ loved the church and gave. I'm of the belief biblically that a man should be an example to the wife leader in all things.
Okay.
But verse 22, sometimes we usually ignore. It says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of the Lord. And when I look at the situation between LaToya and Jason, I think someone said it, there's a problem between both of them are concerned about me. Huh? Yeah, they dominate. They're not dominate. None want to yield to each other. And that's a problem. And I believe in a situation like this, the man being the head and the example should lead. But let me explain.
Okay.
1 Peter 3 verse 6 says, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters we are, as long as you do well and not afraid of any abasement. Now, I love using this, because Sarah, if you read the example in Genesis, you'll notice Sarah called Abraham Lord in her mind. It was never outright. And so for a lady to call her husband Lord, respect her husband in her mind, because in your mind you can do anything. I can call you beast, I can call you, in my mom, I can kill you. But Sarah respects Abraham so much that in her mind, she even respects this man in her mind. Because Abraham was always the example for her to follow. Abraham respected God, a higher authority. Abraham obeyed God. Abraham also interesting that we may not look at the example, but Abraham also listened to Sarah. And should I say, even when Abraham took a second wife, it was Sarah's suggestion. We have a problem there. So on. But my point is that Abraham, because he took God's leading and was able to submit to God and hold himself as a man, Sarah was able to respect him, understand that he does not compromise. Especially as seen when God asked him to sacrifice his son, and he did that without any complaint and so on. And so the man must always, like Christ, choose sometimes to keep quiet and be the example for their wives. So I'll teach you to submit. I'll teach you how to yield. I'll teach you how to forget yourself. And that's what God did for us. And if we are following the example of Bible and knowing marriage comes from God, that's where it is. So whenever a wife or the children or the family goes wrong, it's always good that as long as the man remains true to what God has ordained, then there won't be a problem as far.
So in essence, Jason, pull your weight.
Yeah, pull your weight as the head of the home.
Pull your weight, Jason.
But Flora wants to say something.
No, I mean, I'm just asking whether because it's good to, maybe he wants to pull his weight. It's not that, because we all know about, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychologist, but I wouldn't say that he does not need the help because of what he has gone through, because we cannot omit that or say that there is no issue here and he is not going through a depression, because we all know what it is like when a man cannot provide for his family and he knows that he should be providing for his family. And sometimes it can be very difficult to deal with that because of the whole ego and the whole macho thing, that you are supposed to be provider, and here you can't pay bills, you can't do this, you can't do that, and it's an issue that we need to deal with. But the biblical reference I have is Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them fall down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help him up. So the two of them working together would be a better course of action than just them taking their side and sticking to their position. It's coming together and working together. We have a problem, let us sit down and let us work it out together and find a solution to the problem. And that includes Jason asking his wife for help. Hey, I am going through some emotional turmoil, I'm facing some depression. Opening it up to your wife to tell her what you are going through. Now that's another topic altogether. Men opening up, and the reasons why men don't open up as to what, and men shutting down, men not telling their wives what they're going through. Of course, men need safe spaces, so he should be able to express himself to his wife as to what he is going through in whatever field that he is, however he feels. He should be able to express that and get the help that he needs from her, get the support that he needs from her.
Wonderful.
You have? Well, one biblical reference that maybe let me wait. I think I've heard two. Let me hear the ladies.
I don't like what you're doing, Pastor David, but okay. Marriage is for better or for worse. And when someone gets married, the intention is to be married until I die. And in Galatians 6:9, it reminds us that we should do good. So let us not get tired of doing what is good. And just the right time, we're going to reap a harvest of blessings if we don't give up. So even when there are difficult moments in marriages and after 6 years, you're the only one bringing the income and not getting the support of the family, we need to remember why we got married, who is the center of the marriage, and continue to do the best that we can. So however we want the other person to treat us, we need to treat that person that way, so that the love could continue, the friendship, the relationship, the union of the family will continue. So we need to continue to do good to each other.
Wow, beautiful.
I don't like I know that marriage is for better or for worse, but I don't think that statement, I would not say don't use the statement, that'd be stretching it. I don't think we should classify that statement as a stamp for it's not working, this is the worst. As in, it's not going to get better, I'm going to accept the worst. I don't think that's what, and there's a pastor here, maybe he can expound. I don't think when we hear for better or for worse, it is for us to accept the worst and say, okay, it's not going to get better, let's just try to deal with the worst that we have here. I think the essence is to make it better.
Yes,
I
agree.
While there will be storms and turmoils, I think that's the essence of it. That in marriage, you're going to have tough times, but at the same time, you try to make it better. And it is not to say, put your hands up and say, okay, this is just how marriages are, and this is the worst. It's not going to get, I think we need to clarify that.
Well, I do agree with you, because earlier on you said counseling, so I was only going on one point, because everybody made some vital points. And I was just clarifying that, hey, there are periods in your marriage that's going to be rough, and during that rough period, there's no need to give up. Because your intention is to get the help. And going through counseling and seeking advice from God, etc., will give you that period of getting back to the better.
And I want to look at, interested in the biblical response here. Now, if we go to the doctor, and he gives us medication, or she gives us medication, sometimes you don't want it. You don't like the taste, you don't like what could happen to you, and so on and so forth. The truest, the doctor for marriage is God, and he comes through the Bible. And no matter what time we're living in, the Bible remains, or God remains our doctor. And we have used a lot of good biblical references, but I want to bring one that maybe I had one for many to swallow, and that is Proverbs 31. Now, when I look at Proverbs 31, I didn't read it, but it seems this virtuous woman here is working 5, 6, 10 jobs. No, it's not what I'm doing. No, it's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at it. So I want to understand in that scenario and context. You see, again, you're talking about a Christian woman here. All right? And we assume and we want to believe that she has an Abraham, a Christian man, and so how easy it is. And that's why I'm going back to what I'm saying. If the man leads, now that does not mean it will happen 100%. We wish it will. But very often, most likely, if the man remains that true man that God wants, that virtuous woman is going to be very easy for her to be. But notice what she's doing. She's working 5 jobs without complaint. Because of the leadership, because of what's at home, the example, and so on.
Wow, biblical reference. So I'm hearing from you, Pas, based on that, is the head is a bit weak, and we have to be able to accept the truth. The head is a bit weak, and we need to get this tightened, and so everything else follows would be more than likely in sync. Yeah? We need to move on. We need to move on. Having heard each perspective, Jason, you've heard LaToya. What is it that LaToya needs to move forward? Now, we would have been able to express that, and the viewers may say, you know what, but we did it already. But what we want to demonstrate here is, while LaToya explained very carefully and eloquently and slowly that Jason still maintains a block and still remains at the state he is before the long conversation. So let's hear from you, now understanding LaToya's point and vice versa. What does LaToya need from what she said to move forward?
Well, as far as I can see, once the communication is done between the two of them, communicate on shared chores and scheduling, which also includes the children to help lighten the load on family members. So for me, that's one, because her concern is I'm coming home and the housework isn't done, right? So let's deal with that first. Let's put a schedule together. 13-year-old on whatever day does whatever. So the schedule is up. Everybody knows what responsibility they have to do, which includes Jason, because as Pastor David said, right, we have to, the submission has to lead out in terms of what Jason is doing. My wife, this is how my wife feels loved. This is important for my wife. So although I'm going to put a schedule together, I'm also leading by example to show my boy or my son or my children that dads can also do chores as well. So I'm going to also schedule myself because I have to lead by example. So I think that's one way to deal with that the communication is done there. I think she needs to continue to provide Jason with the emotional support needed for him to feel part of the family. I think showing appreciation for him keeping the chores, outside chores going, while encouraging him to monitor the kids inside. And I think if for so long Jason has been trying to look for a job and Jason is not getting a job, perhaps it's time to form your own employment. Use your skills, because if you're doing such a marvelous job outside, surely you can create employment for yourself in that way. So it's not just going to someone's workplace or being someone's worker, but he can also create his own job with his skills, whichever skills that he has, he can create employment.
Okay, LaToya, having heard Jason, did Jason clearly articulate what is it you need? Yeah? No?
Yes, he did.
He did?
I like that he also saw the need to create employment if he can get. So thank you, Jason, for that.
Okay. All right. Pass. What does LaToya need based on her disclosure this evening?
What does she need to do?
I think also Jason needs to show appreciation to LaToya as well, because I mean it's been so long and she's been working and all she can financially to keep the family going. So there should be some level of appreciation, and that can start with him realizing, hey, my wife is doing so much. Yes, it's true what I'm going through, but let me do something about what's going on here because I love my wife and she's doing all these things for us. So let me see what I can do in this situation, and that will propel him to doing things better than he's doing as well.
Okay.
Now in this situation, we must always remember. Now, although we spoke to Jason having to be the man and to be responsible, but there's a reality that I do not want to ignore, and LaToya needs to understand this. You have a husband whose ego has been beaten.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's not even there. And when a man's ego is taken away from him, you take him away. It's like toothless. And so the way you get him to be a man again is not to beat him. So LaToya has to understand how she dealt with a situation before, with a man with a fragile ego, a beaten ego, or whatever. She needs to understand how to deal with that. No amount of nagging or beating will work that. So she needs to maybe equip herself as to how to deal with a man when he has been beaten that way by society and so on.
Okay. In addition, having heard LaToya, she needs Jason to be more considerate. She needs Jason to be aware of this contribution that she's making. She wants to be acknowledged, show appreciation for her extra mile, the extra mile that she's going you know, through to care for the family. And she wants him to care more about what she's going through, right? So in communicating, it's to just reiterate what the person says so that you stamp that, yes, this is what I'm saying. Latoyas, having heard from Jason, what does he need? Not what you need. What does he need to move forward based on what he shared?
Latoya needs to love Jason unconditionally, knowing, and if Latoya has a relationship with God, she loves her maker, and the husband, Jason is not employed as he should be, but then love must prevail. If you love God, if Latoya loves God, then she will love her husband and understand that God is the head, and if she continues to serve him, then that love for Jason, in spite of his situation, he's not working and what have you, that love will not fail for the husband.
Okay, Sister Hester, speak to Jason and let Jason know that you hear him and you are sharing that with him, his need.
Okay, I believe that Jason is saying that he would want Latoya to appreciate what he is doing. So when you come home, to not just focus on what's not done inside, but at least acknowledge what was done on the outside. I think Jason would also want Latoya to not in any way, whether it be through words or actions, remind him that she's the one bringing in the money. Because of course his ego is already affected, so there's no need to continually do or say things that will make him feel that he's not being the provider that he should be. Right? So I think that's something else he would want. And of course, we all know every man would love for the women to stop nagging. So I think that will be somewhere top of the list as well, to not nag about what is undone. So I'll leave it at this three so I can leave some for.
Lydia, speak to Jason.
Jason, I heard you. And I heard you saying that you need to get self-employed because you're working out there and cannot get something. I heard you and I appreciate that and I will support you. So we will come up with a plan. If you have a plan or you want us to come to a plan together, I am there. We can make some time and we could do that plan together so you could be self-employed. I appreciate you. I know I don't show it very often, and I know sometimes by the time I come from home, my mouth long and I will quarrel, but I do appreciate you. I do love you. At times, it will seem as if I want to give up, but I'm not giving up on you. We are there together, or we are in it together. So I appreciate you, I heard you, and I will do my best to do better.
Yeah. And the viewing audience can say, you know, it's easier said than done. Yes, it's always easier said than done. But what you are experiencing here is how. The how. And even through the how, it's difficult. But as Pastor said, we have been given the medication. And though we do not want to drink and swallow and it tastes yucky, this is what's going to help resolve the situation. So we are rounding up, and as we are rounding up, we need to give you specifics to put in your tool bag. That when you leave the program, you have a grocery bag of things that you could do as you continue in the same situation that you are in. So just let us review the case again, put it up on the screen. And what we are going to provide you with is a list of what the men need to be able to do as a general guidance, and we are going to also present from the women's perspective that same list. So let's review the case. LaToya and Jason have been married for 6 years. Jason has been permanently employed during their marriage as a result of finances. Sorry, I'm lost. I'll do that again. LaToya and Jason have been married for 6 years. Jason has not been permanently employed during their marriage. As a result, the finances of the family of 5, husband, wife, and 3 children, ages 13 female, 10 male, and 8 female, is being managed by the wife, LaToya. After LaToya returns home from working 2 jobs, she's expected by her husband, Jason, to engage in the women's duties, that is to clean the house, to cook the food, and attend to the kids. When she seeks his help, he complains and says he too is tired from taking care of outside chores and looking for a job. You've now heard the perspectives, and we have a hand in the audience, so we will take that hand. Can we get a mic to her?
I just have a question. If to say that she's coming from work extremely tired and the husband, talking about saying that he's tired, do they go to bed angry? Do they deal with that situation? Because I know going to bed angry, it brings problems. So I want to know how they deal with that situation. And they have kids in the house.
It's not that they are going to bed with this heightened level of anger, but certainly it's a situation that has not been resolved, and there is this level of frustration that's on this wife's end because what she needs done isn't being done. And this is what we were able to present to the audience, how to be able to navigate through these frustrations and the emotions on not getting what you want. We demonstrated how you were able to get to that point. All right? And so we are going to develop a list for men as a general guidance on how to move forward in this situation. And I also want to point out, Jason continuously said, I am dealing through an emotional turmoil here. We need to hear this and not just let it go over our head. I am going through a kind of depressive mode because I am feeling devalued. Now that I am not working, I'm feeling devalued, and we need to recognize that he was open in order for him to say this. He felt comfortable and he was honest, and we need to be able to work through that. So let's give the audience the list. And the list is 1, 2, 3, very specific. Who wants to share for the men as general guidance?
Testing. For me, number 1, men need to find ways to contribute to chores being done inside and do it in fun ways with the kids. So obviously,
just 1 minute. I would like somebody to write this down, please, if possible, because I want us to be able to secure that so that the next time we go, we would be able to present from the last. Okay, so write the list, but I also want the audience from somebody. Mr. Vitalis, can you please document what is being said so that persons out there may not even document it? So I want us to be able to give that tangible product that you will be receiving next time.
Yes, so I would say men need to find ways to contribute to chores being done in the house. Before, we used to have the traditional family where the man would go out and work and the lady would be inside. We don't really have these family setups anymore. And sometimes you find that you have the stay-at-home dads and the working moms. So to balance it out, to give the family, some reprieve, to give the wife some reprieve when she comes home, of course, you would have to find ways to contribute to what's happening in the home. And when there are kids involved, you have to, like I said earlier, the scheduling would work, that there's a schedule in place for that. And there's family meetings between husband and wife. Okay, you're the one working, I'm the one at home. Or sometimes the reverse happens. I'm the one working, you're the one at home. And how do we handle what happens in the home so that everybody is clear as to what is taking place and nobody is not communicating and expecting. So, number one, the men need to find ways to contribute to chores being done inside the house. And two, family meetings between husband and wife, and of course the children involved to solve problems and to plan for the family. Okay. And number three, men need to find support, positive, and from outside the family to help them in such situations. So maybe there's a friend that you can talk to, right? An influence, maybe a pastor, maybe Pastor David. I'll give you his number in a few minutes, right? But there's somebody that you can talk to see what you're going through. A positive influence, not somebody who will tell you, "Gasa kite Madam Sarah, or Madam Sarah can just parle, just kite Madam Sarah parle." But somebody who will listen to you, and somebody who has listened to perspective, maybe, right? Right? And give you good advice as to what to do instead of just staying there and keeping everything bottled up. But you have this friend that you can talk to that will give you positive advice, not someone who will give you negative advice, but advice into solving the problem that you're going through, right? Somebody will tell you, "So that's true, the lady is tired." You know the lady is tired when she gets home. You are home, at least try to do a little thing in the house. Right?
Okay. Pastor David?
Well, I'm happy that Ella Flora made the first point, that at least in today's time, men have to understand in this working family is not a traditional family. And so no longer should they hold on to this idea that I do nothing at home, but I have to help at home. The second thing being with Jason, in that situation, being a man, with that, you must be aware of your mental space and your frame of mind. So that you have to own your feelings, stay true to the facts, own your feelings, be honest, so that you don't allow it to paralyze you or take away from your role as the leader in that home. All right, so you must have that. And the other thing I have, well, two others. You remember, as a man, you are representing God in that relationship. Be sure how you respond and whatever you do is not sullying the character of God or misrepresenting God to your wife and children and even others looking. And the final one I want to put there, you must learn to communicate without being confrontational. Confront, that is, deal with your situation, but do it in a way, but not being confrontational in that, we are looking at odds at each other. Rather, we are coming together so that we can put this on the table and get to the bottom of it.
Okay. So the Jasons out there, in addition to that, prepare a to-do list to keep track of what you need to do. Scheduling is important. As you prepare your to-do list, Jason, you do the easier chores first because you're coming from this program and you're rethinking and you're saying, okay, I need to do different, and we are showing you the how. You set a schedule as to when you will do the activities, when you will go out to do your job hunting. You schedule time for that, as well as you schedule time for the house chores so that you do not ignore one over the other. As you indicate that you are tired, you also acknowledge that your wife is tired as well. Your tiredness does not disqualify or eliminate her tiredness. You recognize that. And as it has been said, you do the chores along with the children as you involve them and you lead out into preparing them for the home management. So hopefully you are able to take all those skills, the list, and move forward in a more productive way. Anything we need to add for the men, or we can move on?
As we spoke about the chores, something stood out based on a conversation I had with a young couple. there's a tendency that in the home, the wife is usually, and we kind of addressed it earlier, the wife is usually the one to instruct the children. And I remember a friend saying to me sometime that every time he says to the children to help is go and help mommy. And I was saying to him that when you say that, it gives the impression that the children are doing the mother a favor, and it's the mother's responsibility, so go and help her. As opposed to the father saying that we all have a responsibility as a family to build a family and to help in different areas. So you have a responsibility to wash dishes because you use the dishes too. You can wash your clothes but not go and help mommy, because it gives the impression that it's mother's responsibility and you are doing her a favor by helping her. So I thought I would stick that in because I have heard it a few times, and I remember a specific couple who struggled with it, and there may be other persons struggling with it as well. So I would encourage the husbands to encourage the children to help, because it's all of our responsibility, and not subtly put it in the minds of the children that we still have this traditional family where it's mother's responsibility, but because she's tired, go and help her.
And also recognizing that it's both ways as well. So not that you go help daddy as well, that you help as a contribution to what we are all working towards.
In the home, every home is a firm. It's like a company. The mother, the father are managers, and then you have the co-workers. And each person should have their responsibility at home, whether it's to wash the wares, whether it's to change the cushions. Each family member has a role to play. Because if you do not play your role, then you put in extra stress on the rest of the family.
Okay. All right, so I'm hearing, add it to your list, get everybody involved as early as 3 years old. A 3-year-old could pick up things on the floor, get everybody involved. All right, we're moving on for the women. We are developing a list for women as a general guide in this situation. What do you have, ladies?
Okay, one thing that stands out for me is there is this book, 25 Mottos, I believe. The first motto in the book is, I will never intentionally hurt you. I share this motto with my girlfriends all the time. As women, our feelings and emotions can take the forefront a lot. And unless you're in a relationship where you believe that your husband is deliberately doing things, and that's a whole different story all by itself. Now you all need to go to a whole different set of counseling. But if you are married to someone and something is done, for me, it helps when you remind yourself that your husband is not sitting there trying to find ways to make your life miserable. If you believe that, then that's another story. But if you are married and you are happily married, and there are things that are pricking you the wrong way, if you put that in the forefront of your mind, your approach to it will be different. Because you will have a different approach if somebody comes and deliberately throws something at you, as opposed to them throwing it and it accidentally hitting you. So I always use that, and I say, listen, pause. When those emotions come and you want to react, pause, remind yourself that he's not deliberately trying to ignore washing the dishes and so on. So I find that motto has worked for me in my life, and I always recommend it to my friends. I will never intentionally hurt you. Let that be your motto. No one is trying to hurt the other, and then take it from there. So that's the first one. The second one is, as much as women, we want to... we get a little offended when the term nagging comes up. When I got married, I made a vow that it must never be said that I'm a nagging wife. Right? And I usually share with my friends, and I tell them, if my husband will attest to it, that if I ask for something to be done and I find it's not being done, I don't make it an issue. And it has taken my relationship to a higher level. I'm not saying that he'll get away with whatever that is undone. The thing is that I don't nag. I don't quarrel about it. I refuse to make myself be miserable over something that is not bothering the other person.
Okay.
And that's what we need to understand. I usually recommend the tale of two brains. It helps you understand that the things that are bothering you, it's not that your husband doesn't love you, it just does not bother him. And you are having sleepless nights while he's snoring and enjoying his sleep, not because he doesn't love you, but it simply just does not bother him. So I usually say to him, listen, don't nag, right? Express your feelings, talk about it in the appropriate time, but coming home and say, you see, the dish is not done again, and you're walking through the house, it makes nothing but a very unhealthy atmosphere.
The under-breath mumbling.
Right? And remember that as women, we want things done in our time and our way, and that's the reality. So you want the dishes done by a certain time, and that's me. I can't function in the kitchen with dirty dishes. So I want it done at a certain time. But I'm being unfair because I want it done on my time, but that not may be the best time for him to get it done.
Yep.
So you want to be happy, you want to be at peace, don't waste time, you know. So that's what I would encourage women to do. Some persons, when I say to them, even my girlfriends, they look at me like, girl, but I've been married for 12 years, and I'm not sharing something that I just want to share. It has worked. Okay? So these are the 2 points. I'll stop there. There are many others, but I want to give you the other 2 points that I will share. And if anything, I'll share after.
Okay.
Another thing that is very useful is using the I message.
Yeah.
You have a problem with your husband, or for that matter, anybody. Instead of attacking them personally, you are letting them know that you have a problem with whatever they're doing and you're not happy about it. So the I message, it works very well.
Latoya, Lydia?
Yes, I just would want to share one more point based on all what have been said. The women are also going through, they also need, their mental status needs to be at a point where they could function properly. The 2 jobs, the husband, the children, and the family. So they too need assistance. There are times you will have a conversation with your husband and he's not getting it, he's not going through. It could be because of the way that you're communicating. If you realize the conversation is not going through, it's always important to have a third party. I know most persons don't like a third party, they don't like counselors, some persons don't like pastors, but they were placed there for a reason. God gave every single thing on earth for a reason. And he placed the pastors, the counselors, and trusted friends. He placed them there for a reason. So you realize the communication is not there. It's not, the receiver is not getting it. Have a third person there so that you could have a conversation so that you could move forward. The lady also would need, for ladies, you will also need time to yourself. So in communicating to your husband, he will not be selfish to say, you cannot leave the children here alone with me. So at times you may need a few hours to yourself, just to, after the long day's work, if you're the only one working, just need some time to yourself, it is okay. You're not being selfish, you're taking care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself before you could take care of your husband or your children. So I just want to add to these 2 points based on all what was said this evening.
And add to your list, audience, the hands-on one that you could, in getting Jason to that place where you would want the assistance, be willing to teach him. Teach him how you want the chores done. Because as he does it the way he wants it done, or he can do it done, it's not to your satisfaction. So teach him exactly how you want it done. Validate him. That is one of the skills that we have done throughout the program. Validate him when the efforts have been made. So he has washed the dishes and the sink and the floor is wet. Do not focus on the sink and the floor being wet, but the fact that the dishes have been washed. Send reminders to him during the day. Call, to tell him, well, babes, because you are helping this person that's your partner. And that's what we do at work. We send reminders, so don't think that you don't have a 10-year-old at home or you don't have another 3-year-old, but be willing and proud to be able to assist in all ways possible. Offer to review the schedule with him. So, babes, I know you said you would have done the schedule. If you want, I could look at it and see, and then you see the schedule and you're like, that's why it will never be done. That's a schedule? No. You want to be able to validate. Okay, well, I now see why you will be having a challenge. Let's see if we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. As was said, do not complain when it's not done to your liking, and recognize that change is a process and it's gradual. You've been married for 6 years. It's not going to turn around tonight, but you have to look for the improvements and ask yourself, since he was exposed to perceptions, is he the same place that he was 3 weeks from now? And you will see a difference, and that is what you celebrate. Jason's, what are we adding to the list for women? Any other additions? Oh, we have exhausted. We have a full list, that's okay.
Can I stick one in? Ladies generally like initiative, as in for a husband to see something needs to be done and do it without being asked, right? Generally, this is appreciated. However, I would say to ladies that for me, I really never liked the schedule thingy, right? I just prefer, you see dishes, go and wash the dishes, but that does not work for men, right? The scheduling works better. In a pastoral family, it's challenging because if my husband says he does dishes on Wednesdays and Thursdays, on Wednesdays he may be called to an emergency, right? Do I mumble and say, you see, you were supposed to do dishes today or whatever? So the scheduling works for families. If you sit and you agree that this can work for you, it may not work for everybody. But I think there needs to be a little balance. So men, it's really nice if you can take the initiative and see something needs to be done and do it without being asked. That's one. But then on the ladies' part, understand that the scheduling may be the best thing for your husband. I really like how Sister Olympia shared that if you believe that you are a team and you're helping the person, you shouldn't feel bad if you have to remind your husband during the day. As opposed to saying, I always have to call him. If I don't remind him, he'll never do it. Imagine I have to remind him to buy bread. Why are you complaining when you are a team? Yeah. So you're helping this person to accomplish that one goal that you are both working towards. So I just wanted to share the two sides. Once in a while, it's nice to just see something and get it done without being asked. But scheduling does work really well on the side of the male part and reminding at certain points.
I like that part, in terms of the reminder. But not, you see, if you're complaining because of a reminder, because you're not doing it properly. If you call in to check up or to say, I love you, babe, and hey, you understand? Then it does not become a chore. Yeah. And so if you call in just to give a reminder, when I say a reminder, it can be just so you know, but with a proper motive in mind, that it won't be a reason to complain. You understand? It's not just a reminder, So, yeah.
Excellent. So, audience, you have now been able to receive a 6-pound bag of things that you could do to go past this situation. And we recognize that all may not work, and that is why you have so many options. Also, the discussion may incite new thinking from you, specific to your situation that you never even thought of, but it had been inspired by this conversation, and so you were able to use that to better the quality of what is happening within your household. So here you have it, the 7th program. You have some more points for our audience.
No, I just want to ask a question, because what Sister Sinclair said earlier, not at that point and before, let's say you get home, you send a reminder, you have the schedule, you get home and it's not done. I want to know practically, how do you handle that situation? Okay, maybe somebody's listening now and that's the situation they face. Yeah. I've done the scheduling, I send the reminder, I send WhatsApp, I tell them there I love you, I've done the affirming, and then this guy is just not.
Yeah.
So
here how you do it. You remember you spoke of the family meetings? Family meetings are very, very, very important because it kind of zoom you into this time where we can share the negatives, we can share the positives, and the negatives are not flying all through the week. So you have conditioned your mind that I'm going to hear about my faults in this setting, and there's a kind of structure to, move forward. So at the family meeting, I'm hoping that it's not every 3 months, ideally a week or a week and a half, where you come and say, but the last time we said we would have done the schedule and you agreed, because if it was not agreed upon, then we have to do something else. But we agreed upon the schedule, and based on what has happened, it has not worked the way we expected. What do we need to do for the readjustment? Because those things are not cast in stone. We are just trying it out to see how it can work for us. In my home, the schedule working fine. In your home, the schedule not working at all. And so when we discuss it at the family meeting, we recognize, no, this is not working for us. We put that aside and we do something else. The little girl could say, but mommy, how about just writing it on the blackboard we have on the fridge for daddy? She's 3. She has a contribution in the family meeting. That is done, that is tried, that is evaluated, and that is how you move forward.
So I was speaking particularly on the night. So you would do the dishes?
Oh, so you are speaking.
I'm speaking practically.
I understand.
So
you cannot wait until the family meeting.
Yes. So
you cannot wait until
the family meeting. In the family meeting, but here is the dishes. In the moment, how does someone?
So I will say how I will do it. Personally, 1, don't nag. And you can nag by slamming the kitchen doors a little harder. Because I remember my husband once told me, "May say the doors were slamming hard, you vexed today." Right? So you may not say anything, but your attitude in the kitchen, the pots hitting each other a little louder. So you can tell by my attitude that I'm upset that the dishes were not done. So it can do. But for me, I would do it. But guess what? We'll switch the next day when I was supposed to do it. So since not in a way where, since I did it, what I would do is when we lie on the bed in the evening, I would do it in a fun and like so you didn't do the dishes, eh? Or in the morning when I go to prepare breakfast, I may joke and say, I don't make no breakfast because they have the dishes in the sink. But not in a way to be, demeaning or to show that you're angry. And hey, I'm not saying I got this in my first 2 years of marriage.
Yeah.
It was a growth. Like I said, I was knocking doors, so my attitude was showing that I was upset. Although I said I would never nag, it was not coming through my mouth. So it may not happen in the first, but it's something I can guarantee. And I hear persons sometimes say, it's all that you have to do. But the thing is, when we go to work, we find ways to make things work at the workplace. If this worker is not complying, we have to bring in new strategies, but we don't want to do it in our homes. Where is more important? So if you're going to put in all that effort at work to make certain things work, put that same amount of effort in your family.
Yeah.
So you'd wash the dishes and then deal with that in a meeting.
Now don't make it that you go to leave the dishes.
The other thing is, this is just one option. Yes. Because somebody out there may say, I am not washing the dishes.
Like that.
I am sorry. It's going to be there, and I'm going to go along my merry way, and that could work for them. And that is why you have to be able to, and we don't want to have the program go into a therapy process, because the dynamics of every interaction is specific to its own. So these are just generals. You can try washing the dishes. If you figure no, then you have other options that you could use.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, but why not just, instead of saying I'm not washing the dishes, or I'm upset and slamming doors and stuff, say, babe, but what happened today? You didn't wash the dishes. And so as soon as you ask that question, you get the right response. And maybe situation is. But what I'm saying, ask, and there may very well be a very good reason why the dishes were not washed.
Another option.
So instead of not washing the dishes, and taking that position, I'm not washing the dishes, then you'll realize, no, if I decide I'm not washing the dishes, or having made that decision, I realize I have to take back my word and go and wash that dishes.
Yeah.
The thing is that not everybody's ready for that conversation of asking that question, because asking that question, you're assuming you'll get a right response.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't get the right response, and it becomes more than dishes.
Right.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure I stick that in. Yes, you can ask the question. It's good to ask the question. Yeah, but I'm not saying to ask the question. I'm not saying
we can as an option.
You can as an option.
Yeah, but also sometimes you have sent a reminder so many times, so it's not just a one-day thing. It's like every time I come on the same thing, this is not done, this is not done. So it's asking the question may not be the right thing because of the tone that you would use. So like you said, there are options, and you leave it alone. So many things you can do at the time. But you're right, asking could be one, but persons aren't ready for that kind of conversation sometimes. Yeah.
So we need to wrap up. Wonderful, wonderful. We were able to really get some kind of foundational stuff to move people forward. So audience, here you have it, the 7th program of Perceptions. And as you are blessed from this program, the prayer is that you utilize this improved knowledge to create a better living space for you. If it is that this wide option, the list, this heavy list that we've given you does not work, it means that you need to get advanced support. And that is where you seek the support of the professionals, because we need to be able to go through the nitty-gritty of what is going on, because on a general basis, it cannot be addressed. So again, we have persons out there who do not know where to get help. I'm a psychotherapist. I have the counseling clinic, GEM Psychotherapy for Hope and Healing. Up on the screen has the areas that we address. We have the pastors as another option that you can speak to for guidance. We have the different members within the church who are able to be advisors to you. But when it really goes to, the deep underlying, that is where the more advanced from the psychotherapists and the therapists are needed. So send your names and contact number to be a panelist on the program, to send your scenarios so that we are able to guide you along as you are moving forward with your experiences. I had a wonderful time. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, male panelists, females, the technical team.
We were disadvantaged, but I think we did well.
You were disadvantaged? In what way?
2 against.
So good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Happy Sabbath, and see you next month, God willing, for the next Perceptions, understanding how the opposite sex thinks.
Amen.
Amen.